Well, welcome to Lot Talk, powered by Lotpop Inc., where we take the WTF and get the suck out of your variable operations. I'm Chris Keenwood, your co-host, and joining us each and every week will be my partners in WTF, Mr. John Anderson and Mr. Ronaldo Leonard. Now, just real quick, in our last episode, I don't think I was clear with you guys. Who are we? We are a group of guys from a company called Lotpop Inc. that works the facts each and every single week with dealer partners just like you across the nation, looking at nothing but the factual information to help variable growth sides of the dealership suck no more, to help them stay ahead of the curve in our industry as it continues to change on us each and every day. Now, why do we do this? We do this each and every week for you. Why do we do Lot Talk? It's for you to give back these insights that we gather from thousands of calls each and every week from every last one of our dealer partners. Now, today's topic, where are my great salespeople? To understand that a little bit more, this is spawning off of last week's conversation about no more shooting fish in a barrel. And John and Ronaldo and myself, we've had conversations all week long, not only with ourselves, but also with our dealer partners going, oh my gosh, where are all the great salespeople? The salespeople are the heartbeat of our dealerships. And quite frankly, there are a lot of five-car Freds out there, but does it have to be that way? Are they really five-car Freds? John, Ronaldo, let's dive in. Let's kick this party off, and let's help take the suck out of the automotive industry.
Well, hey, guys, it's great to be with you this morning. And I guess, what I would do, I want to start off just by, if you can bear with me here a little bit. I just took some, like we did last week, I grabbed some data out there that is in the marketplace, just kind of looking at this issue. And I was trying to, what I was trying to specifically look at is anything that was remotely connected to a salesperson, right? So just, I want to read these off, and then I'll circle back around as to why I felt like these were important. So the first one is the average cost of an automotive lead is $250. This figure is on the upswing as the auto industry ad spend continues to rise. That's Lion Tree Group. That's the source that produced that data. 61% of new and used vehicle shoppers contact a dealership by calling after a search. Due to the complexities of automotive purchases, consumers typically prefer to speak to a live agent to get their questions answered. So again, with everything that we have out there available to us from a technology standpoint, consumers still prefer to talk to a live body. 54% of car buyers would pay more for a better buying experience, right? Auto shoppers are dissatisfied with the buying experience. You can gain a competitive advantage by providing painless end-to-end experience, right? And so my point for connecting that one is that experience pretty much sits in the lap of a salesperson, right? Up to 72% of dealership agents or salespeople don't ask the caller for an appointment. Up to 25% of mishandled calls can be converted to sales by calling the lead back. Think about that for a second. 1/4 of your leads could be converted to sales just by making a call back after it was mishandled the first time. So again, is that connected to a sales rep? Yes, right? I know I mishandled a call, and a lot of times we tend to shy away from recontacting that customer. And then 76% of consumers will stop doing business with you after one bad experience. If you don't provide a seamless experience at your dealership, And so there, once again, all these things that I'm talking about, and again, these are coming from sources like DealX, Dealer Marketing Magazine, Invoca. So these are reputable companies that are providing this data. And then the last one is 38% of consumers will stop doing business with a company if they have a bad experience, right? So when you think about all these data points, right, that typically starts and ends with the person working with the customer, which is a high percentage of your time, unless a manager takes over, that would be your salesperson. So my question, or my emphasis on this point is, and having spent time in dealerships, Chris, Ronaldo, myself, we will go into stores and help out with the team, go in and do some training. And so here recently, I was in a store and I was observing the sales desk, and I watched a salesperson approach the sales desk with paperwork in his hand and stood in front of the sales manager, and the sales manager was on his computer. I wasn't close enough to see what he was working on, but he was working on his computer. And as soon as that salesperson approached, nothing happened with that sales manager. He didn't look up and acknowledge the salesperson. He did not say, "Hey, I'm finishing this up. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right with you." He just continued to work on his laptop and not acknowledge that salesperson standing there with a customer in the dealership sitting at the salesperson's desk. So what I want to find out from you guys, what's your thoughts on that? Because, I want to say that how you treat your salespeople is exactly how you're treating your customer, right? One of the biggest complaints that customers have is how long they spend in a dealership. So that example I just pointed out, that's just delaying time, because that sales manager is not acknowledging that salesperson. So you might as well go right through that salesperson, right to the customer, and say, your time is not important to me.
John, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. How many times over the last, I guess, as long as you've been in the business, have you heard it just takes too much time to go into a dealership and work a deal? That's just the way that we've set it up. But the biggest thing is, I mean, you're right on point. That salesperson is going to take to their customer whatever they get from the desk, whether it's a positive attitude or it's a negative attitude. They walk to the desk and the sales manager says, you don't have anything. Go get me a commitment. It just turns all of that work that the salesperson has put in with a prospect goes right down the drain when a sales manager doesn't treat that salesperson as if he were talking to the customer itself. It's just perspective and putting your internal customer and your external customer together and treating them the same way that you would want to be treated if you were on the other side of the fence. It goes back to one of those old mantras that I love to kind of adhere to, and it's that you can't get a positive charge off of a dead battery. And so you have a salesperson that's worked so hard to get all the right questions answered and to get a commitment or to get a buy-in from a prospect, and then walk to the desk and just be completely deflated. It takes those guys and makes them 5-car friends, as opposed to being uplifting, taking that opportunity to coach and counsel in between stints of working a deal. It sets up the entire interaction with that prospect. And if it's done on a consistent basis, it sets that dealership up for success. And it also sets that salesperson up to be more successful, because he knows that every time he goes to the desk, he's valued, he's respected, and he's going to be given everything that he needs in order to be successful. But I would really like to hear from our viewers out in, I live in Colorado, so Rocky Mountain states. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. Please comment when you have an opportunity while watching the video. But Chris, what do you think?
No, I loved what you said there. The internal customer, the external customer. We sometimes forget that we have an internal customer, and that internal customer, like John was talking about, that salesperson. The desk, obviously, they're controlling everything on the deal. So are they treating that internal customer in a fashion to be able to help that internal customer relay that information to that external customer? Ronaldo, I would love for you to unpack two things a little bit more. And I can't wait to see the commentary below, from the Rocky Mountain states and any other states out there as well, to understand, even if we're going down a path that's even felt across our industry. So definitely comment below, because I want to hear from everybody else out there. But Ronaldo, you talked about that energy from the desk to the customer. Unpack that a little bit more on some experiences that you've had, things that you've seen inside the retail dealership, and maybe help paint the picture out there, because maybe sometimes our salespeople don't realize that that's happening to them. Unpack that a little bit more.
Well, yeah. One of my neighbors here in the neighborhood, they've been recently in the market for searching for a vehicle. And they told me one story about walking into a dealership, and they felt like they were dealing with somebody who was schizophrenic, because they would sit down and have conversation. They'd ask questions on what they needed the vehicle for, what was their budget, all those good things. But they were upbeat, and they were happy, and they were excited to have an opportunity to earn their business. But when they walked into the showroom floor, everything kind of changed, because as that salesperson walked to the desk to talk to his manager, I got to go talk to my manager. And when he came back, he was a totally different person. And the first thing that came to my mind was an experience that I had when I was a salesperson. I had two managers sitting at the desk. One was, they were Jekyll and Hyde, and one was the type of guy who would just kind of, he'd beat you down on a daily basis. But the other manager was someone who just kind of, he always tried to see the bright side of things and always tried to encourage me. And so whatever that salesperson gets at the desk is what he's going to give to his prospect when he gets back. That last thought that's in his head. It's like hitting a golf shot. If you sit there and you think, there's a water hazard over to the right, and the last thought in your head is, don't hit the ball to the right, what are you going to do? You're going to hit the ball to the right. Same thing with customers and with salespeople. Whatever that salesperson, the last words that go into his ear, that's going to be what the prospect receives. And it's just as simple as, looking somebody in the eye and say, hey, you know what? We're not where we need to be. We're almost we're close. We're so close. All I need you to do is to just go out and tell your prospect, all we need is $1,000 down, and we've got a deal. But you can do this. We've talked about it. We've walked through how to present those numbers. I believe in you. Go get them, Tiger. As opposed to, come on, man. I mean, I already told you, we need some money down. If you don't understand that, then we can't put a deal together. But go out there and get the money. Two totally different scenarios. But given the same message, one is going to uplift somebody, and they're like, oh, okay. Well, I got to get this money because my sales manager believes in me. And that confidence translates into a positive attitude, an upbeat attitude, and your energy level goes through the roof as a salesperson. And that's conveyed to your prospect when you go out to present those numbers and get that commitment. But like I said, you can't get a positive charge off of a dead battery. And so I would just encourage anyone who comes in contact with a salesperson, but mainly our desk managers, just sit back, think for a minute, and ask, how can I give this salesperson the confidence that they need to be able to put this deal on the board? And looking at it from that perspective, I think that a lot of managers will kind of change the overall performance of our 5-car Freds, but also uplift the entire sales team, because they know that that reinforcement is there every time they go to the desk, and it's going to be transferred along to our prospects. And Chris, with that being said, I'm going to have to step away, but I really am looking forward to hearing the comments and seeing what you guys feel about how that interaction goes, and whether or not you have some suggestions on how we can transfer information to our dealer partners to put them in a better position to be able to uplift those salespeople and treat the internal customer as well as they would like to treat the external customer.
That's perfect, Ronaldo. And I'm glad. I'm sad that you got to leave us because you're going to miss out on the fun today. But I'm glad that you're leaving us because I know you got to go meet with one of our dealer partners to help train their salespeople. So what a coincidence that's actually what you're going to do. Right. But definitely when Ronaldo says he wants to hear your comments, he's not talking about John's comments, my comments. He's talking about you, listeners. He's talking about he wants to hear from you. We all want to hear from you. What are the things that are impacting you from moving from that 5-car Fred or from being on the verge of greatness as a salesperson? Comment below, share that with us. What are some things that you're facing in your market there in South Florida, up in the Dakotas, over in California? What are some of the things that you're facing that is impeding your progress? Or are you getting that positioning of trying to get a charge from a dead battery? I love that, Ronaldo. Keep sharing that message today. Keep spreading the good news as you're out there with our dealer partners today. And we will definitely catch you next week on the call. Any closing thoughts?
No. The only thing I got to say, man, is that let's just kind of get after it. We're working the facts every single day with our dealer partners, and more than open to have conversations with dealerships we aren't partnered with. We'd love to hear your comments, love to have the opportunity to serve you in that way. And John and Chris, love you guys. I'll talk to y'all later.
See you, brother.
Get him. Go get him.
Hey, John, so I'd love to hear your thoughts there because he talked about that internal customer, external customer. I thought that was just so powerful. You coming from the retail dealership, like Ronaldo, myself, like the majority of everybody that is dealer facing with Lotpop, we come from the retail dealerships, and we've all fought that battle of the internal, external customer. And quite frankly, I'm as guilty as the next guy of treating that internal customer poorly. Tell us your thoughts on that.
When I was listening to Ronaldo talk, I kept thinking to myself, from a manager's perspective, right? How many times at the end of the month or at the end of the year, when we go back at the end of the quarter, right? When we go back and review, because we're trying to set the tone for the upcoming month, the upcoming quarter, the upcoming year, we go back and review, the wins and the losses, right? And there's a lot of times that I would find inventory that I felt like should have sold faster than it did, but it bled through and aged on me somewhat. And as I dug into that, I would see where we worked a deal or multiple deals early on in the life of that vehicle. And for whatever reason, we didn't get a deal put together. Maybe it was our unwillingness to budge on pricing. Maybe it was exactly what we're talking about, right? Here, I have to say this, with all the research that, well, you know what? This is a good thing. I would be curious as to what folks think out there. So, guys, when I asked them, please comment at the bottom your thoughts. But if we believe the data, which I have no reason not to believe it, that the average customer spends 12 to 15 hours online researching a prospective purchase of a vehicle. And then that customer shows up at our store. Are they coming to buy? What's your thoughts on that? Are they coming to buy, or are they coming to the dealership, putting themselves in a position, the dealership, to do some shopping while they're on your bricks and mortar lot, right? So give me your thoughts on that, of what you feel about that. I have my own thoughts, but I would tell you that I think that's where a lot of deals are won or lost, when that customer shows up to the dealership. And, you know, we've all been around people when we meet them, they inspire us by their attitude, right? They pull us in, right? We've all been around people when somebody walks into a room, right? It seems like everybody wants to gravitate towards that person. People want to be around that person, right? And so, you know, I just think this topic that we're talking about today is so important. We spend so much time and energy at our stores online. Think about this for a second, Chris. How much time, from the time that we trade or purchase a vehicle, how much time, effort, and energy is put into that individual vehicle to get that to a point where it's displayed on our virtual, not only our bricks and mortar lot, but our virtual dealership. All that time, effort, and energy. And then think about how that time, effort, and energy can be wasted by a bad attitude that could have been prevented at the start, right? And so that could potentially cost you a deal. Look, I'll end with this. I've always said, when we're talking about our virtual dealership or our bricks and mortar dealership, I want to remove any obstacle that could potentially cause a potential customer to not do business with me or move away from my inventory. Right now, listen, when they're on your bricks and mortar, we have a little bit more control over that because they're there live, right? We have very little control over that when they're on our virtual lot, right? So if there's any obstacle there that I can remove that could potentially cause a customer to leave me without making a purchase, which again grows our dealership family and also helps every other department in our dealership by adding a new customer, I want to remove those obstacles. And I think, you know, we spend so much time as managers looking at pricing, looking at photos, descriptions, getting vehicles ready. How much time do we actually spend talking about the attitude of our salespeople and how we keep that attitude at top performance?
No, John, you're spot on. I mean, you shared that statistic with us earlier, 200 and some odd dollars per lead. And we spend all that time, we spend all that energy to get these leads inside our virtual dealership. And as we read last week, or as we shared with our listeners last week, and I'm going to share it one more time here, a publication from one of our sources out there, Cox Automotive. When it comes to car buying in America, the desired state is omni-channel, not entirely digital. According to the latest survey, so listeners, hear me close here, 50% of all car buyers completed 100% of their steps in person. 50% of all car buyers completed 100% of their steps in person, while 43% completed in a mix of online and in person at the dealership, with only 7% of car buyers completing all the steps online. So, John, to your point, if we're going to sit there and take and put all of these resources out there and all these initiatives out there to get these customers to our digital dealership, that obviously they're coming into our brick and mortar, I'm actually going to go a little deeper here. And this one, I really want to hear from our listeners and our viewers out there. This is for the dealer principals and the general managers. What are you doing to drive culture inside the dealership to make sure that internal customer, also known as your sales managers and your salespeople, what are you doing to help support that initiative to make sure that we are, as we say at Lotpop, put our dealers first? What are you guys doing to put your customers first? And that starts internally there at the dealership to make sure that your team is supported. They understand all the initiatives. Because John, you and I both know sometimes ownership and general managers and C-suite executives from large auto groups, they'll have these really great ideas and really great initiatives and bring in all these different pieces to help drive that initiative, but it stops there and we don't cascade that information down. So we don't know from the heartbeat of the dealership, which is the salespeople, we don't know what everybody's wanting from upper management. So the question, and comment below, hey, listen, we work the facts here at Lotpop. So salespeople, sales managers, comment below if you don't feel like that you're 100% clear on what the initiatives are. And then let us step in and let us help bridge that gap between you and your dealer principal and your C-suite executives. So that way we can create that culture of customers first. That John right there. I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we have is you got siloed divisions within management, upper management, and then management salespeople. I think that really speaks to a lot of what you were just talking about there. What do you think, John?
No, I agree. I mean, those were some great points, and I agree with you. That's why, part of our philosophy is to create communication across the management and salesperson channel or BDC channel, right? Based on the inventory issues that you're having at your store, right? Not just blindly hammering off tasks in the CRM, right? So that's why we try to change that somewhat so it creates better communication. I've been in dealerships a lot of times where a manager may not see a salesperson all day if he doesn't have a deal. I mean, think about that for a second. You're in the same facility, right? And you don't see a salesperson all day, right? So I would say to anybody that's watching this out there, if you acknowledge, right, and listen, if you don't think this is a major issue out there in our industry, let us know that. I want great feedback. I want to know that I know Chris addressed it earlier, but we really are. I think if you know our CEO, Jason Rice, and you've known him for any period of time, the guy is absolutely his entire career poured back into our industry. Free content. It's good content, right? If you go follow Jason, you can go back and basically see everything we do in a video form, right? Because he's put it out there, right? Because it's truly from a heart that wants to help. And so I think that's who we are as a company. We want to pour back into an industry that's been so good to all of us. And that's what we're trying to do. So, if you want to know some dealers that are setting the standard in this area, just ask us. I'm thinking of 5 dealer partners right off the top of my head that, man, you walk in their store and there is no doubt why they're as successful as they are, because it permeates and emanates from their frontline staff. And if that's happening on the front line, it's most definitely happening in upper management because that stuff rolls downhill. So No, Chris, I agree 100% with what you're saying. And again, I can't help but just continuing to think as we're talking here, how much time we spend in all these areas of our store. I really don't know if there's a massive amount of time spent in this area from a management perspective, really analyzing, how are we managing this one area, right? When it comes to the front facing of our salespeople and management staff, that absolutely bleeds through to the front facing of our sales staff to our customers, right? We spend, as a company, think about that. We spend a ton of time looking at all this data and coaching in this area. And I don't think we talk about this enough, right? That'd be a simple question, right? What's it look like when a salesperson approaches your sales desk? What's that look like, right? Do you drop everything you're doing? Hey, listen, I'll talk about a store I ran, personal experience, right? I observed as a general manager, our team, and I observed that when a salesperson, and man, we're talking about salespeople, and I was a salesperson, so I have a heart for them. I did that for many, many years in the car business, right? So when it's snowing outside and you're freezing cold and you're spending time wiping cars off, pulling them up for customers, when it's 100 degrees outside and you're out there for 2 hours with a customer, you're sweating, you're spending time, you're making sure the customer doesn't, the stuff you're experiencing, the customer doesn't experience. And then you walk to the sales desk, and within 2 seconds, the sales manager says, you don't have anything, right? And that's just like, you might as well take a needle and pop that balloon, right? And I watched that happen at our dealership. And one of the things that I wanted, one of the culture things I wanted to change is I wanted my managers, when they saw a salesperson approaching the sales desk, I wanted them to clap and say, "What you got? Let's go," right? Just get excited about it. My goodness, you got an opportunity to work a deal. Don't deflate that thing in the first 5 seconds by making a judgment call and completely taking the rug out from underneath your salesperson.
No, you're spot on, John. And that right there, we get important things in front of us, and then we get urgent things in front of us. And sometimes we forget the difference between the two. And really at that point in time, when that salesperson comes in, with that deal sheet in hand, nothing else matters but the two customers that you have at that point in time. Customer number one is that salesperson in front of you. Customer number 1A is who that salesperson is talking to out there, which is that customer that affords us the ability to be able to do what we do on a personal level and a professional level. All the customer wants is John, you talked about it last week. They spent hours upon days upon hours upon weeks upon days shopping for the right car. I just shared it with this again. 50% of all car buyers complete 100% of their steps in person. Last thing they want to do is all the work they did online, they've narrowed it down. They've got their short list of cars of 1-2 vehicles, and you just happen to be one of those 2 vehicles. Are we going to sit there and take that for granted as a sales manager? Are we going to take that for granted as a GSM, a GM, a dealer principal? Well, verbally we say, no, we're not going to. But actionably, sometimes those actions and those words aren't intersecting very well. We talk about we ain't going to do that. But to your point, John, are we standing there really assessing that situation? We see it in these CRMs every day, John. How many times do we look at a CRM transaction, if you will, from the time the lead came in to the time that they responded to the time the autoresponders went and another autoresponder and another autoresponder, and then the salesperson or BDC agent turns around and says, "Hey, thanks for shopping with us. What can we do for you today?" Well, I was asked a question if the thing had a panoramic sunroof in it. And honestly, I don't indict the salesperson for that.
No.
John, I literally will ask the question of sales managers. I mean, what are you doing? Are you spending, do you dedicate an hour a week? Do you dedicate, 15 minutes a day to training with your salespeople? One of the things that I used to do at the dealership, John, in the stores that, I've ran, we took a volleyball. You know how they've got all the little patches on them? We would write different things,
Yeah.
whether it be objections or processes or things of that nature. And every day we would just throw that ball around and whatever it landed on, and it says X, customer has a trade in. What's the first step? Well, put it inside the CRM, feed it to the inventory management tool, so forth, so forth. Little things of that nature. Are we spending time volleyballing those things around? Because I can promise you this. My son plays college football. Okay. I coached for years. I played. John, you played, sports as well. We didn't just show up on Friday night or Saturday. These pros ain't just showing up on Sunday, putting their pads on and getting after it. They've got a regimen of things they're doing throughout the week, watching film, running drills, conditioning, practice, more film, scout team. They're working all week long to prepare for that one day. So my question would be, John, do you think we as an industry, do we do a good enough job working all week long to prepare for that one up, that next customer, whether it's a digital up or a brick and mortar up? What's your thought?
I mean, the easy answer for me would be no. And I'll tell you why I say that. And it has nothing to do with, honestly, this has nothing to do with what I see in data. I could bring up some examples through what I see through our company, but the one thing that I'll point to is Google what customers feel like or what they would rather do than go into a car dealership to buy a car. Right? See what customers say about the experience of trying to purchase a car. Right? To me, that says it all. Right? If we worked on if we consistently trained and worked on our experiences being better, then that sentiment would change, and it just hasn't changed over the years. With everything we talk about as an industry, it just hasn't changed. With how long we've been talking about, and I don't want to get sidetracked, but how long we've been talking about shortening the buying cycle when a customer enters our dealership. And I know it's happening at some places, but overall it's not. And so, the short answer to your question, Chris, would be no. So with that being said, Chris, what are a couple takeaways that you would bring up with dealers out there that could listen? Man, I just believe this is something that can change the entire culture at your store. Look, we could say the same thing about fixed operations, right? And with service managers and their technicians, right? So, but we're speaking about variable operations today, but this is something that could change the entire culture at your store, which relates right to your customer. So what are a couple of takeaways that you might give anybody watching that would help in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. So takeaway number one is, as a salesperson, as a BDC person, take inventory. And what I mean by take inventory is look at your week, look at your day, look at your hours, and how much of that time are you going out to your management team and saying, I need help with this. Look at your weeks, look at your days, look at your hours. how much of that time are you self-educating to make yourself better to help your customers that are coming inside your dealership, provide them with that experience? Because John, you just talked about shortening the sales cycle. Well, we have, or let me rephrase that. We've given the resources to shorten the sales cycle with digital retailing, with online trade evaluations, with automotive listings online. We've given the consumer all of these things to be able to grab as much and put as much information in and get as many things out of the way as possible to make their in-store experience very seamless. But the question would be, and the biggest takeaway I would give for our listeners, for our viewers, do you know what those are? Are you training yourself on those? Are you self-educating? And are you reaching out with your management team for areas of opportunity that you know you need help in? Those are the biggest things that I would tell you to help benefit you and open those lines of communications with you and your managers.
That's good stuff. Yeah, I would bring up too. The first one is going back to the first data set that I read. The average cost of an automotive lead nationwide, $250. Mm-hmm. Right? You can't look at your customers. You can't look at your customers or potential customers as a dollar figure, but you have to understand time, effort, and energy to bring that customer to the point where they're saying, "Hey, I'm interested in the vehicle you have. Can I buy it?" Right? So you have to respect that. Let me ask you guys out there, if you're walking down the street and you saw two $100 bills and a $50 bill, how fast would you jump on that to grab that money yourself, right? How fast would you grab that, right? And so do we take that same mentality towards our customers when they approach us on our virtual dealership or our online store? And then secondly, sales managers. Man, I did the job for many, many years, and it was my favorite job in the dealership. I loved putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I loved working with the banks. I loved submitting deals. I loved appraising trades. I loved working with the salespeople. I loved TOing customers. I loved greeting customers at the door when they came in. So as I look back, that was one of those jobs that I really enjoyed. So what I would ask you to really consider strongly is, what is your approach when a salesperson approaches the sales desk with a customer in hand? What is your approach? And if that approach is not fired up, which not, let's go, then reevaluate what you're doing, because you're really setting the tone, not for the salesperson. You're setting the tone for the customer that is online wanting to buy a vehicle from you, or at the desk in your store wanting to buy a vehicle from you. So those would be two massive takeaways that I would have dealers think about.
That's great stuff, John. And to recap what Ronaldo shared with us before he had to run off, two major things that I took from that I know he emphasized on very, very heavily. The salesperson taking that desk energy to the customer, and how you treat your salesperson will reflect on how you treat your customer. Salespeople, this is what I would tell you. This is that degree of separation that you have to create to go from being a 5-car Fred to start making those steps to be just that great salesperson that you are. And that energy that you may get until that manager gets themselves trained up on how to feed you that positive energy. I would make sure that, whatever it is that you're getting from the desk, leave it at the desk and take all the positive stuff back out to your customer out there, because they're the ones who matter the most next to you guys. So those great points that Ronaldo brought up, I thought those were just absolutely fantastic. All that being said, John referenced it a little bit ago. Okay. Our president, our founder, our CEO of Lotpop, which is the power behind Lot Talk here, he puts out all kinds of free content. So please go find Lotpop out there on Facebook. You will see a lot of great content. Go find us on YouTube. You'll see a lot of great content. Find us on LinkedIn. You'll see a lot of great content there. But most important for this right here in Lot Talk, powered by Lotpop, we thank you for joining this episode. And as always, both physically and digitally, do a lot walk before your customer jumps on your competitor's up bus. If you're not sure how to do the walk, when you're out there on those third-party sites, checking out Lotpop on the Facebook, on the LinkedIn, on the Instagram, inside the YouTube, when you're out there, if you have more questions about it, don't hesitate. Give us a call. We'll share all the insights in the world with you at no charge. Thank you again for joining. On behalf of John Anderson, Ronaldo Leonard, and all of our family at Lotpop,